Word, lay. Description means to place something down carefully or to rest horizontally. It describes the action of putting something in a flat position. It's often used with objects and differs from lie, which describes reclining. Phrases of example. First, I lay awake all night thinking of you. Second, they lay their hands upon him, a silent blessing. Third, he lay still, listening to the rain falling on the roof. Word, respect. Description, a feeling of admiration for someone or something. It can refer to high regard, esteem, or approval. It signifies honoring someone's qualities, achievements, or rights and demonstrating polite behavior. Phrases of example. First, respect for our planet is a moral imperative. Second, I respect you more than you can imagine. Third, respect is earned, not given. Word, signal. Description, a sign or indication that something is happening or about to happen. It can be a visual, auditory, or electronic cue conveying a specific message or warning. It's used to communicate information or instructions. Phrases of example. First, the signal came, and he knew it was time to move. Second, a signal of hope, a whisper in the dark. Third, the distress signal pulsed weakly, a desperate plea. Word, rugby. Description, refers to a full-contact sport popular in many countries. It involves two teams competing to carry or pass an oval ball and score points by touching it down or kicking it through goalposts. It's known for its physicality and teamwork. Phrases of example. First, the game of rugby had become a religion to him. Second, rugby was the only thing he cared about. Third, they'd played rugby together since they were boys. Word, hey. Description, a casual greeting, often used to get someone's attention or to start a conversation. It's an informal way to say hello and is suitable for friendly interactions with people you know. Phrases of example. First, hey, are you coming? Second, hey, where are you going? Third, hey, let's get out of here. Word, request. Description, a formal way of asking for something. It's more polite than simply asking and often involves a written or spoken message. A request can be for information, a service, or an item. Phrases of example. First, I have a request of you, dear friend. Second, he made a request, small and simple, yet full of hope. Third, she made a request that seemed impossible, a desperate plea for help. Word, guidance. Description, refers to advice or direction given to help someone find their way or make decisions. It implies a process of being led or shown the correct path. It's often associated with mentorship, expertise, or instruction in a complex situation. Phrases of example. First, the best guidance comes from within, a quiet knowing. Second, seek not the guidance of the past, but the wisdom of the present. Third, it is the duty of elders to offer guidance, not to dictate choices. Word, mouse. Description, refers to the opening in your face used for eating and speaking. It's the part of your face where your lips are. It can also refer to the river that empties into a larger body of water. Phrases of example. First, it is a poor mouth that does not speak. Second, he bit his lip and opened his mouth to speak. Third, she had a sweet mouth and a kind smile. Word, snow. Description, refers to frozen precipitation falling from the sky. It's the white, fluffy crystals that fall during cold weather. It's a common weather phenomenon and a noun describing a type of precipitation. Phrases of example. First, the snow was falling, soft and silent, blanketing the world. Second, and then it began to snow, whirling flakes of white. Third, the snow came down softly, covering the roof and the ground. Word, cite. Description, means to quote or refer to a source to support an argument or provide evidence. It involves mentioning a person, text, or study to back up a statement, often with a specific reference or attribution. Phrases of example. First, he cited his past experiences to justify his current decisions. Second, the professor would often cite historical examples to illustrate his points. Third, she cited the law as a reason for her disagreement. Word dinner. Description: the meal typically eaten in the evening. It's a common word for a shared meal, often with family or friends, marking a time of rest and connection after the day's activities. Phrases of example. First, she called to him after dinner, and they walked to the beach. Second, let us have dinner now, and then we can talk about it. Third, we had dinner in a small restaurant downtown. Word fire. Description: means to dismiss someone from a job. It can also refer to the act of ending an employment contract. It is used when an employee is let go from their position, often due to performance or company restructuring. Phrases of example. First, he fired the arrow, aiming for the bullseye with practiced skill. Second, they fired a volley of shots, the sound echoing through the forest. Third, the protesters fired their anger into the system, demanding change. Word arrest. Description: refers to the act of being taken into custody by the police. It signifies being officially detained, usually due to suspected criminal activity. It indicates formal legal action has been initiated. Phrases of example. First, she had the kind of beauty that could cause a sudden arrest, a halt in the rhythm of the city. Second, he was a man of some education, which, in the opinion of the police, was almost as good as a confession to his arrest. Third, the arrest of his thoughts was a sudden thing, a silencing of the noise in his head. Word 3. Description: represents the quantity of something, being one more than two and one less than four. It's a basic number used to count or indicate a specific amount. It's a common word for counting objects or people. Phrases of example. First, I have 3 brothers. Second, he had 3 wishes. Third, there were 3 ships. Word president. Description: refers to the leader of a country or organization. It can also describe someone holding a position of importance or leadership within a group. It's a common term for a head of state or a leader. Phrases of example. First, the president is always a compromise. Second, the president was a man of great charm and intelligence. Third, Mr. President, I believe we have a problem. Word book. Description: means to reserve something, like a hotel room or a ticket, in advance. It indicates securing a place or service ahead of time, often guaranteeing availability. It's commonly used for travel and appointments. Phrases of example. First, she asked me to book a table for 2. Second, he would book his passage on the next ship. Third, I was instructed to book an appointment with the doctor. Word over. Description: indicates completion, the end of something, or a position above something else. It describes when something is finished, when you're on top of something, or when something is above a certain level. Phrases of example. First, the battle was over, and the silence was deafening. Second, the storm has passed over, and the sun is shining again. Third, he looked over the landscape, a sense of peace washing over him. Word organizer. Description: refers to a person who plans and arranges events or activities. It can also describe a physical item used for sorting and storing things, like a desk organizer or a file organizer. It highlights the act of planning or the tool used for it. Phrases of example. First, he was a natural organizer, always finding a place for everything. Second, she was the event organizer, a whirlwind of efficiency and calm. Third, the librarian was an organizer of stories, a guardian of forgotten worlds. Word extent. Description: refers to the degree or scope of something. It describes how much or how far something exists or happens. It's used to show the degree, range, or limits of an action, quality, or situation. Phrases of example. First, to what extent does ignorance help? Second, to what extent is there injustice? Third, The extent of their cruelty knew no bounds. Word acute. Description denotes sharpness, intensity, or seriousness. It can refer to a severe physical or mental state, or a precise and keen understanding. Often used to describe a painful condition or a perceptive observation, signifying a high degree. Phrases of example. First, his suffering was so acute, so constant, that it became a kind of silence. Second, there was a certain acute agony to the idea of being forever young. Third, an acute, almost painful awareness of the otherness of the world. Word similarly. Description means in a way that is alike or comparable to something else. It indicates a resemblance or parallel between two or more things, used to show how things are alike or share common characteristics. Phrases of example. First, similarly, she could feel the weight of expectation pressing down on her. Second, similarly, the patterns repeated themselves, a grim echo of what had come before. Third, similarly, the waves crashed against the shore, mirroring his internal turmoil. Word extensively. Description means in a detailed and thorough way, at great length. It signifies a comprehensive and wide-ranging exploration or use of something. It suggests a significant amount of time, effort, or resources were dedicated to a subject or task. Phrases of example. First, the research extensively covered the effects of pollution on marine life. Second, he had extensively studied the ancient cultures of the region. Third, the artist extensively utilized color to evoke emotion in his paintings. Word bee. Description: a flying insect known for making honey and living in colonies. Bees are important for pollinating plants and are often found in hives or nests. They are known for their buzzing sound and striped bodies. Phrases of example. First, he was a man who lived his life with a bee in his bonnet. Second, a man's life is only as good as the bee he plants. Third, the whole world was a dancing bee on a chain. Word tongue. Description refers to the muscular organ in your mouth used for tasting, speaking, and swallowing. It can also refer to a language, as in the English tongue. It's used when talking about speech, taste, or language. Phrases of example. First, he held out his tongue, tasting the rain. Second, her tongue was sharp enough to cut a man's throat. Third, the snake's tongue flicked out, tasting the air. Word lose. Description means to be unable to find something or someone, or to no longer have something. It also describes not winning a game or competition. It's a very common verb used to describe something disappearing or being misplaced. Phrases of example. First, I do not want to lose my place in your heart. Second, sometimes you lose what you never had. Third, to lose is to learn. Word discourage. Description means to cause someone to lose confidence or enthusiasm. It suggests causing a decrease in hope or willingness to do something, often by pointing out difficulties or negative consequences. It implies a lessening of encouragement. Phrases of example. First, don't let anyone discourage you from pursuing your dreams. Second, she didn't want to discourage him, but she knew it was a difficult task. Third, he tried to discourage me from going, but I wouldn't listen. Word stop. Description: a place where vehicles or people pause. It can be a physical structure, like a traffic stop, or a place where something ceases. It is used to indicate a temporary or complete ending of movement or action. Phrases of example. First, it was a sudden stop, and all the children fell forward. Second, he came to a stop, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Third, sometimes, a stop is just what's needed. Word shape. Description refers to the external form or outline of something. It describes how something looks from the outside, whether it's round, square, or another form. It can also refer to a general form or appearance. Phrases of example. First, the clay took shape under his hands. Second, the future is fluid, shapeable. Third, I watched the snow take shape as it fell. Word clock. Description refers to a device for measuring and showing time. It can also mean to record or schedule events in a system. It's a common object used daily to keep track of the hours and minutes passing. Phrases of example. First, the clock struck, and the world shifted into a different place. Second, he checked the clock to see how much time was left. Third, time can be stopped, but not turned back, the clock tells us. Word just. Description denotes fairness and impartiality. It suggests something is equitable or deserved. It can also describe something that is minimal or barely sufficient. Often used in legal or moral contexts, it conveys a sense of righteousness or appropriateness. Phrases of example. First, just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in. Second, just remember, a thing is only as good as the person who makes it. Third, just look at it, Martha, and see how little it resembles what we hoped. Word specification. Description, a detailed description of requirements, standards, or instructions. It outlines precisely what is needed or expected, often in technical or formal contexts. Think of it as a precise set of guidelines or a detailed list of features. Phrases of example. First, the specification of the design was agreed upon long before the building began. Second, each specification was meticulously documented, a testament to their dedication. Third, the sheer specification of detail felt oppressive, a weight on his spirit. Word useless. Description means not able to be used or helpful, ineffective or pointless. It describes something that has no purpose or value in a given situation. It can apply to objects, skills, or even efforts that produce no positive result. Phrases of example. First, it is useless to consider what one might have done. Second, all my efforts were useless, and I was lost. Third, to complain is useless. You must act. Word crucial. Description means extremely important or essential for a successful outcome. It highlights something vital that cannot be ignored or compromised. It emphasizes the critical nature of a factor or element in a process or situation. Phrases of example. First, it is crucial to protect the environment for future generations. Second, maintaining confidentiality is crucial for the success of this project. Third, trusting your instincts can be crucial in challenging situations. Word run. Description means to move quickly using your feet. It also means to be in charge of something or to allow something to continue happening. It's a very common verb with many different meanings related to motion and management. Phrases of example. First, he ran to her laughing, and she ran to meet him. Second, I ran as fast as I could, but it was no use. Third, we ran out of time, and everything fell apart. Word context. Description refers to the surrounding information that helps you understand something. It's the situation or environment in which something happens or is said. Understanding context is key to knowing the full meaning. Phrases of example. First, the context of his life made him what he was. Second, without context, the words could mean anything. Third, each sentence has a specific context, a specific meaning. Word nutrition. Description refers to the process of consuming nutrients from food for health and growth. It encompasses the study of how food impacts the body, including vitamins, minerals, and their roles in maintaining well-being. Phrases of example. First, proper nutrition is the most important thing, but it's not enough. Second, good nutrition is the foundation of a healthy life. Third, the lack of adequate nutrition is a significant problem globally. Word ship. Description, a large boat used for carrying goods or people by sea. It can also refer to sending something, like a package or a letter, via a delivery service. It's a common word related to travel and transportation. Phrases of example. First, the ship came to be a silent and ghostly thing. Second, a ship is not made for a harbor, but for the open sea. Third, the little ship, like a child, needed constant tending. Word, accordingly. Description means in a way that is appropriate or consistent with something else. It shows that an action or statement is a direct result or consequence of a previous action or decision, often indicates a logical or expected response. Phrases of example. First, we are what we pretend to be, so we must be careful what we pretend to be and act accordingly. Second, the world is not a place to be understood, but to be lived in, and we must act accordingly. Third, he was a man who had to know his own mind and act accordingly, or he would be lost. Word, fade. Description means to gradually become weaker or less distinct. It can refer to colors becoming lighter, sounds diminishing, or memories becoming less clear. It signifies a decline or disappearance over time, often subtly and progressively. Phrases of example. First, the memories began to fade, like old photographs left in the sun. Second, her words faded into the background noise of the city. Third, the colors of the sunset faded slowly, giving way to darkness. Word, marginal. Description describes something that is small in size, importance, or effect. It suggests a narrow or limited scope, often indicating something is only slightly different or impactful. It's used when emphasizing a lack of significant change or influence. Phrases of example. First, the marginalized groups often find solace in shared experiences and communal support. Second, his marginal involvement in the project raised questions about his commitment. Third, a sense of being marginal always colored her view of the world. Word, thinking. Description refers to the process of considering something or having opinions about it. It's the mental activity of forming judgments or ideas. It can also describe a person's opinion or belief about a topic. Phrases of example. First, it is a fearful thing to love what you cannot save. Second, thinking is the beginning of everything. Third, the best thinking happens in the pauses. Word, biscuit. Description, a small, baked good, typically enjoyed with tea or coffee. It's a type of cookie or cracker, often slightly sweet or plain. It's a common food item in British English, but may be called a cookie elsewhere. Phrases of example. First, she handed me a plate of biscuits and a cup of tea. Second, I felt the raw and biscuit essence of his being. Third, a man's life is only as good as the biscuit he bakes. Word, merchant. Description, a person who engages in trade, typically one who sells goods or commodities. It can refer to a shopkeeper, trader, or someone involved in commercial activity, often historically or in a specific trade context, denoting a business-oriented individual. Phrases of example. First, the merchant's fortunes waxed and waned with the tides of trade. Second, he was a cunning merchant, skilled in the arts of persuasion. Third, the traveling merchant brought stories from distant lands. Word, stiff. Description describes something that is rigid or not easily bent. It can refer to physical objects, like a stiff breeze, or people who are emotionally unyielding. It implies a lack of flexibility or responsiveness. Phrases of example. First, his limbs were stiff, and his movements were awkward. Second, the wind was stiff, and the rain fell in torrents. Third, she felt a stiff formality in his manner. Word, attention. Description, it expresses surprise or a request for someone to listen or look. It's used to get someone's focus, often when you want them to notice something or to hear what you're saying. It's a way to draw someone in. Phrases of example. First, I want your full attention, you hear me, not a moment to spare. Second, attention, all of you, the game is not over yet. Third, he demanded my attention, and I gave it to him, for I feared what would happen if I did not. Word, jazz. Description, a style of music originating in the United States. It is characterized by improvisation, syncopation, and a strong rhythmic pulse. It's a popular form of music enjoyed by many people. Phrases of example. First, the jazz age was a time of great change and excitement. Second, the music was jazz, wild and joyful, a celebration of life. Third, it was a hot night, and the jazz club was filled with smoke and laughter. Word convict. Description means to formally declare someone guilty of a crime after a trial. It implies a legal process has been completed and a guilty verdict has been reached. It is a formal term used in legal contexts. Phrases of example. First, he might convict someone based on a hunch. Second, they can't convict me of anything. I haven't broken any laws. Third, he was wrongly convicted of a crime he didn't commit. Word courtesy. Description denotes polite behavior and consideration for others. It signifies respect, good manners, and a willingness to help or be accommodating. It emphasizes graciousness and a sensitivity to the needs and feelings of those around you. Phrases of example. First, his courtesy and charm concealed a ruthless ambition. Second, the absence of courtesy is a sign of weakness. Third, she displayed a practiced courtesy, masking her true feelings. Word package. Description means to put something into a pack or wrap for protection or transportation. It suggests preparing an item for sending or storage, often involving wrapping and securing it. It can also refer to grouping things together. Phrases of example. First, they package the memories, wrap them tight, and bury them deep. Second, the evidence was carefully packaged for transport. Third, I packaged my thoughts as best as I could. Word hunger. Description refers to the feeling of wanting or needing food. It can also describe a strong desire for something other than food, like knowledge or success. It is used to express a need or a craving, both physical and metaphorical. Phrases of example. First, hunger only awakens when opportunity is lost. Second, hunger is the best sauce. Third, I felt a hunger that was not for food.